E a kunui, e a kurahi, a nei rā te mihi atu ki a koutou. E tika ana ki te mihi atu ki te kaikaraki o te ata nei, ki a koutou no te Aotearoa, taranaki ui nei rā te mihi mai oha mai Ngāti Whātua ki a koutou katoa. Okay, let me do this. I am so bad at technology. My staff laugh at me when I have to do this. Yay, it's up, thank you, yay. He uri tēnei no Ngāti Whātua Te Uri o hau, Waikato, Ngāti Hē, Ngāti Pāoa, I te taho tōku pāpa ko Ngāti Pākehā Te Uri, ko Precious Clark taku ingoa. Kia ora. I'm really grateful to be here. When I was asked to come, I was trying to exercise care of myself wherever Joe was, and I actually said no. And then when I was at Uncle Joe's tangi and I was looking at the lineup, I got serious FOMO. And I was moaning to my husband, saying, oh man, all my friends are going to be there. And he said, then just go. And so I rang up Mama Kati and I said, have you still got room for me? And ta-da! So ngā mihi nui kia koutou ngā kaiwhakahaere o tēnei rā whakahirahira. I'm here to talk about our approach as Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei with regards to succession planning. Our ambition is kia rere arorangi te kahu pōkere ki ngā taumata tike tike, and that's about supporting every single whānau member to reach the highest heights that they possibly can. Okay, so just so you understand our structure, we are a whānau of just over 6,000 people. We're pretty small. Our whānau elect 9 representatives onto our trust, and we are there by them and in service of them. I'm fortunate enough to be one of those 9 elected representatives. We have 2 subsidiaries, Whaimaia, which is responsible for our social and cultural development, and Whairawa, which is responsible for our commercial development. Our trust board is a relatively young board. The majority of us are under 50, and that's not that common within Māori organisations, particularly iwi organisations. And that has been as a result of a couple of conditions. One is that many of our kaumātua nurtured us as pretty young people to step into leadership. But a part of that was also driven by the fact that they were born in the 30s, 40s and 50s, and Auckland City grew up around our papakainga, and the impacts of colonisation hit really hard. We only have 1 native speaker alive within our kaumātua, and what our kaumātua have taught us is aroha and really, really hard work. But their connection to tikanga was lost through the impacts of colonisation, and as the new generation comes through with a deeper connection to tikanga, they have chosen to push us forward. So it's both positive and negative, those conditions that drive that. But I love the fact that just 2 board meetings ago, I texted all my cousins, we have a private chat function, and said, I'm so looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, I love you. And 2 years ago, we weren't having those conversations. It was quite toxic, so we worked really hard to bring us back as whānau first, to enjoy the time that we have together and the service that we deliver together. So we have a Future Directors Program, and I want to mihi tu waka tū because your leadership in this space was our inspiration to act. So much of what I'm saying is actually stolen from your toil. But there are some other things that I'd like to share. So at Whairawa Limited, we've been running a Future Directors Program since 2015, and these are some of our stellar future directors that have emerged out of that. So the program prioritises people who are under 35 so that they can access this space in ways they probably couldn't otherwise. It's a 2-year program, and they're remunerated quite well to ensure that they're not missing out on anything in that space. They fully participate in all of the decision making. They are never excluded from being full participants in decision making. They don't have any fiscal responsibility, but they have full decision making capability. We connect them through to the Independent Institute of Directors 1-week program, much like Waikato does, to give them a broader understanding of how multiple pillars within governance connect to one another. And they're paired with a mentor who is one of the independent directors on on the subsidiaries. So I reached out to my cousins and I asked them a few things. So what worked well? what are some improvements, and how has the program helped them? That's probably too small for you to read. Oh no, it's okay if you don't wear Tapuwae's glasses. And the things that work well is being exposed. So they were exposed to amazing governors like Sir Rob Fenwick and also Michael Stiesny, who doesn't suffer fools and demands excellence. And so that's the breeding ground within which they grow up. They enjoyed being able to participate and have dialogue and being in service of our hapu and our whānau. The things that didn't work, and so in learning about what they shared with me tells me that we are ready for an upgrade. Things that didn't work is that it was devoid of building their cultural capability. So picking up on your point that you raised, this is a really important part, but I'll pick up on that a bit later as well. The mentoring was ad hoc, it wasn't formalised, and so most of the time they were actually missing out on it. And there wasn't much there's hardly any follow through. So in terms of creating pathways for them to move into other governance roles, we were dropping the ball there as a collective, and we need to take some responsibility there. But how has the program helped them? Well, some of them left their industry and moved into property because that's our main bread and butter. Others found other governance roles to move into. So I just want to focus on the improvements. So as I guess I'm the one who had to take responsibility to see this, some of the improvements that I see is it's really helpful to help them travel in pairs. So come with a buddy so that they are able to learn together and feed off one another and feed one another. In addition to a mentor, I think it's really important to assign a coach. So the mentor is there to help them in the governance space and to understand the dynamics of governance in the boardroom, but the coach helps you with your self-awareness and helps you understand who you are so you know what you're bringing, what superpowers are you bringing into the boardroom. A better induction process, one that helps them understand your charter or your constitution and your strategy, the various documents or kaupapa and how they interconnect with one another. Also identifying the passion of that particular associate director and then finding ways to ensure that they lead the conversation when those kaupapa come up. So that takes cognizance of the chair to hold that role and give that space, let them start, and then others to scaffold off that conversation. And I say this because it can be entirely intimidating offering your opinion and offering your voice in these spaces. And so if you create the opportunity but make it a formal process, the expectation is set and all of these people rise to those expectations. Increasing the accountability by creating fora for them to communicate with our whānau. This can be really challenging, but we all have newsletters that go out, so how might they ensure that their voice is captured in that process to create that accountability with whānau? And what we haven't done is create opportunity across all of our boards, and that's something that our Associate Director said they would have benefited from. So how do you rotate around all of the boards that you have autonomy over? And as I mentioned, actively finding pathways for future governance roles is mandatory. In Auckland, it's a really competitive environment, highly competitive, with multiple iwi cutting each other off at the knees. I'll just say it like that. And so we've been really precluded from opportunities because we're Ngāti Whātua, but we have to take responsibility for that as an entity to open some of those spaces for our future directors. But if you only focus on building your governance capability and leadership, it's very one-dimensional, and it's not going to serve our people in the way that we need to serve our people. So we're also focusing on succession planning and developing our cultural capability. So we have a wonderful program for matakahi called Matakahi, riffing off that sense that we are a small wedge that is going to topple that rākau that tells us that we have a disconnected relationship with our tikanga and our reo. So Matakahi is a 2-year program where we learn, it's designed for those who already have the reo. And there we deepen our knowledge of our reo, deepen our knowledge of our tikanga, of our whakapapa and our pūrākau. And this becomes really important as we feed people in through our Associate Directorship Program. We also have Tuia Te Hono, and this is where we develop our tāne in karakia, whai kōrero, so that we are able to hold those positions that our marae are screaming out for. And with matakahi, we don't just do this for Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei, we take the leadership, but we invite all of our Ngāti Whātua whānui, te roroa, to come and participate so that we are understanding our connections and we're building our capability across our entire rohe. And Tuia Te Hono does the same as well. And we also have Whiria Te Hono, so exactly the same whakaaro, but with regards to kaikaranga and raising the capability of our wahine to step into the roles that our rohe, our marae, are yearning to be fulfilled. And I love this photo because this is what it's about. We have not a whakatauki, a whakatauaki from one of our tupuna I Henga, when his pā at Te Pari o Tonga at Pauto in the Kaipara was under siege. And he said, me tupu ia wiwi, me tupu ia wāwa tūria I te wera, peri ki te rito te ringa, me whakapakari ki te hua o te kawariki. And I will sprout in all directions and will focus. I will grow vigorously like the ringa and mature to perfection like the kawariki. And so these succession measures are really us breathing life into our tipuna taonga that are handed down to us. And this is the vision of my Uncle Joe. This is what he was about, and I won't cry. And I would like to share that at Uncle Joe's tangi, the majority of my trusts were the ones holding and doing the mahi. So they were on the pai, they were doing the karanga, they were running the kitchen, they were greeting our manuhiri as they arrived, working tirelessly. And so I just want to pick up on tītautanga, because that is a word that we talk about a lot in Ngāti Whātua as well. And my challenge is, if your first step into iwi or Māori governance is through into iwi or Māori space is through governance, reconsider how you access it. The marae, and especially the kitchen, never discriminates. You don't have to be a lawyer, you don't have to be an accountant, and you don't have to be able to kōrero Māori to pick up a tītau and be kanohikitia and do the mahi. Make that your access point before you move into governance. Koina taku kōrero ngā mihi nui kia koutou, tēnā koutou.